You've heard it your whole life, knowledge is power, but what if I told you that's only half true? In part 1 of the Knowledge is Not Power series, we showed that knowledge is not enough. Now let's go deeper. Why are there people with vast knowledge living miserable lives, while others, with much less, rule the game? Is true power in knowledge, or is there something deeper? Something that is not said, much less taught? Perhaps you already have the strange feeling that your life was already written, as if choices were just variations within an inevitable path. In our society, we have been conditioned to believe that reality is random, as if everything were the result of chance or luck. This idea hides from us the understanding that there is a structure behind the world, a logic, an order, an invisible web where each choice, each thought, each piece of knowledge has its weight, but not necessarily its power. Believing that just knowing is enough to transform reality is a mistake, a deliberate mistake even. In my experience studying pacts, angels, and demons, I have come to realize that reality is in fact like a fabric. Our lives are like threads in this fabric of existence. Some threads are part of the most beautiful details, the most noble areas, while others are in the common areas. Some are not even visible, and still others are inside the fabric. Each thread has a purpose. Our lives are like threads interwoven into the fixed fabric of existence. Some are in the most visible details, in the noble parts of the design. They are lives that shine, that make their mark. Others form the structural base, discreetly supporting the invisible order of the whole. There are lines that do not even appear on the outside. They remain hidden, on the reverse of the plot. But that does not mean they are smaller. Each line is exactly where it should be. Nothing is random. Reality is not a field of infinite possibilities at the mercy of chance, but a static, precise architecture where each thread has its path already traced, even before it is woven. The larger pattern, which escapes our limited perception, is already complete. What we see as choices or coincidences are merely variations within a gear that operates with precision. We are not the authors of the pattern, but part of it, each with its own form, its own function, its own impact on the whole. Even for those conditions that we consider insignificant, a purpose is fulfilled, even if we consider them to be something cruel or despicable. No line is dispensable or without purpose. It may even seem that way, but everything fits into a logic of a predetermined world, where free will is nothing more than just a sensation of movement within a path that is already programmed. The truth is that existence does not improvise. It repeats, orders, and fixes. And that is precisely why each line matters, including yours. However, the truth is that we do not like this. We hate this idea. We don't like the idea of destiny. We don't like the idea of destiny, especially if we don't like our own destiny. And in this conflict, we prefer the illusion of control. We prefer to believe that we are free, masters of our own story. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with wanting something more. And there's nothing wrong with fighting for a better life, for a different life. It's in our nature to want to break the limits. However, the true holders of power know this, and they create circumstances that no matter how much you know or fight, believe, nothing will happen. The idea of destiny, of how to use people's energy through the illusion of choice we think we have, is very well explored and explained in the Matrix film series, a work that works as a direct analogy to Plato's allegory of the cave. Being inside the Matrix and being aware of it is, in itself, irrelevant to achieving liberation. It is literally impossible to leave the Matrix alone. In the movie, exiting the system requires external intervention, whether from someone acting against the logic of the Matrix or from a loophole allowed by the system itself. As happens in the film itself, the chosen one, the protagonist, is not truly free. Neo does not do what he does by pure choice, but because he was programmed to do so. His trajectory, his rebellion, even his apparent victory were already foreseen. In the end, we discover that the chosen one was just a piece within the great cycle of control. He was what he was and did what he did because that was the purpose that the system had reserved for him. In other words, even the revolution, which in itself is already considered a rupture, was already part of the plan. How many revolutions, wars, and so many other great ruptures in our society? They are nothing more than planned and programmed cycles, under the false appearance of being an organic and spontaneous action. Each thread in the fabric of reality has a purpose. But how did I come to understand this while studying demonology? It was through what was delivered in pacts with spiritual entities. As I delved into this universe, I realized something fundamental. Angels and demons do not have the power to shape reality at will, nor to profoundly transform the life of a human being without that person participating in the process. Imagine that you want to be the greatest chef in the world. At the very least, you need to know how to fry an egg. In other words, these entities only act within the limits of their own nature, and also within your limits, of your geography, your gender, your life story, your genetics, your effort, your reality. It is impossible for any spiritual entity to grant requests that contradict the very fabric of reality. This is not a matter of a limitation of power, but of obedience to the cosmic order. The universe is woven with rules, layers, and internal coherence. Asking, for example, to marry an English princess, or to live a real romance with a fictional character from a movie, is not only absurd, it is a violation of the script of reality. Some entities may even induce illusions, lucid dreams, or subjective experiences, but the weight of reality always imposes itself as an anchor. Nothing happens outside the fabric. And what's more, nothing happens outside the script. The reality factor always weighs more. Nothing happens outside the fabric of reality. Everything in the universe follows a script, and it is impossible to tear up that script. It is even impossible to leave your own script and enter another one. At most, it is possible to improvise within the same script, with some flexibility. But leaving the script, no. This perception converges with the theory of reality developed by Albert Einstein. According to him, time and space are not separate entities, but rather intertwined dimensions of the same fabric, space-time. In other words, we are like still images on a roll of film. Every moment of our existence, every gesture, every choice is already recorded there. Time is the light from the projector, which travels along this tape. Space, the film itself. And what we call reality is nothing more than the projection of this set on a screen, a coherent but already defined illusion. But this leads us to an even more disturbing question. What is, if the whole story is already on the roll of a film, who wrote the script for this film? This concern resonated strongly in the studies I conducted on pathworking rituals and pacts with spiritual entities. One thing became clear: these forces, no matter how enigmatic or powerful they may seem, do not have the authority to rewrite the plot. They act subtly and always within the limits of what is already written in the fabric of existence. For example, in famous love spells, the target person often reports feeling something strange. They realize that the love is not genuine, that there is something artificial there, a makeup over reality. The feeling is not complete, nor true. It is an interference, not a creation. In other words, not even these entities can tear up the script. They can only discreetly bend it. According to Einstein himself, destiny exists, and it is inevitable. Time is just a persistent illusion. Everything is already written in the fabric of space-time. Past, present, and future exist simultaneously, like frames of a film that has already been developed. You just watch it, frame by frame. But this raises a profound question. Is there hope for those who wish to escape their own destiny? Is it possible to escape the script, or at least rewrite it from within? That is the question we will explore in the next video, when we talk about the folds of reality, the spiritual gaps, and what some traditions call leaps of consciousness. Because if there is an author, perhaps, who knows, he can also allow revisions. We will also talk about the hidden folds in the fabric of reality, unstable zones where known rules seem to fail, and where quantum physics meets ancient mysticism. Could there be hidden paths within the path itself? Parallel realities that coexist with our own, like possibilities waiting to collapse into form? Traditions called these soul leaps. Modern science speaks of superposition, entanglement, multiverses. But the big question is, has anyone ever managed to rewrite their own script? Could certain individuals, unlikely, unexpected, who changed the course of history, somehow change the script within their own lives alone, thus maintaining the larger script? Or was this also already written from the beginning? In the next video, we will investigate whether escaping destiny is really possible, or whether even rebellion is already part of the plan. If this makes sense to you, if something vibrates inside you, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and share it with those who also feel that reality has hidden layers. Your presence here is part of this journey. Thank you very much for walking with me until the end of this video. May the Eternal bless you, give you discernment to recognize the signs when they appear. Until the next revelation. Shalom. God bless you.